what would be your summary of Keir Starmer's time in office? If you had to come up with one word, I've got one, but I want to hear your one, and then we can kind of expand a little bit as to why we think it.
Mediocre.
As good as that.
Well, what was your word? Well, hi everyone, and welcome back to the Engage podcast. It's great to be back with you, and it's great to be back with you as well.
Good to be with you too, James.
How are you?
I'm doing all right, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. You're still in shorts, so you're still in heat wave mode, right?
Yeah, I'm pretending like it's never ended, to be honest.
You're actually, and genuinely, one of the few people I spoke to during that heat wave who seemed to be almost blossoming. Would you say that's true? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I didn't find it too bad, to be honest.
That's good.
I sort of feel like we get, but the weather becomes too hot and the whole country starts to lose its mind a bit.
Well, there is an element of that. Speaking about losing its mind, we as a country aren't just going through extreme weather, but we're continuing the recent tradition of having extreme politics as well. And by that I mean yet another change at the very top.
What a beautiful transition.
That was pretty good, actually.
I mean, you look at the state of the country now. No Prime Minister, no England cricket captain, no James Bond, no Doctor Who. It's all going to pieces.
Well, that's right. And the British players dropping like flies from Wimbledon.
Very
Jack
right.
Draper pulling out because he's injured. And British players can't get a win either.
Yeah.
And then we must just comment briefly on the fact that Scotland have left the World Cup already.
It's not like anyone could possibly have foreseen that coming.
Are you in mourning like I am for what's happened?
I am sorry to see Scotland not go through, because I would always rather British teams do well, but I think they had quite a difficult draw, to be honest.
Who did you get in the sweepstakes? The office sweepstakes?
Well, I've got the USA, which at the time I was a bit disappointed with, but actually they're doing quite well.
They're doing very well.
Who have you got again?
Can't remember. I think Australia.
Yes, who have qualified?
Good. Sorry, yes.
Well, they'll probably be eliminated tonight. But,
okay, yes. Who are they playing tonight?
No,
I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but it was a game I thought they're not likely to win.
And so, the great thing about the World Cup is it has moments of fast pace, it has moments of high drama, it has immense lows as well. So you get the highs, you get the lows, you get the elation, you get the disappointment, you get the tears, you get the tantrums. It's all a big melting pot, and it's exactly like politics, isn't it? There's another majestic transition.
Look at James bringing us right back to the topic.
Right back to the topic of, so here we go. Let's start with Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
So the still current Prime Minister, though for how long remains to be seen.
Indeed.
Maybe just a matter of weeks. He goes to the podium, and social media is alive with the hot podium guy, this man that we've seen on our screens only at the points when Prime Ministers resign, right?
Yeah.
And he appears again. So everybody knows this is coming. And on Monday, the Prime Minister, a recent Monday, I can't remember the exact date, but the Prime Minister comes out and he does a speech and he says, look, I've heard my parliamentary party and I accept it with good grace.
Do we believe him?
Yeah, well, there's a fascinating Christian word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Grace is so important to us as Christians. Do you think he is dealing with this with grace as far as you can tell?
I mean, publicly, yes. I think everything which we're picking up in terms of stuff about what's going on behind closed doors would suggest that he's been rather dragged out of Downing Street.
Yes.
And the game was up for quite some time. It was interesting. The couple of days after it happened, I was with my sister at the cricket and we were chatting about politics. And she was sort of saying, well, she couldn't really understand it because sort of what's happened and there haven't been any big scandals.
Yes.
And you sort of think about what some of the things which were brought down most recent prime ministers. And one of the things I sort of said was, well, the game has been up for months and months here, realistically. There was all that speculation, sort of, if you go back to September last year when it was a Labour leadership conference, and Andy Burnham came and they're thinking, is this going to be his moment, do his big pitch? And then that ended up being a bit of a damp squib. And then there was a lot of talk around sort of December time that he's going to go after the May local elections. And then particularly the last 5 months or so, he has felt a bit like I was about to say a dead duck, but I think I mean a dead dog. But it's felt like he was never really going to have very far to go. He tried to block Burnham standing that first time. Do you remember? Back in about February, I think. But once you had the local election results, they were so bad for Labour. And then he had his big reset speech.
Yeah.
And the impetus lasted probably about 24 hours.
Yeah.
And from there, the game really was up. And as soon as you started getting members of the cabinet, like Wes Streeting resigning, and various people putting forward statements of no confidence. I think there was about 100 Labour MPs who said they had no confidence in the Prime Minister. You can't lead the country if you can't convince, like that's a quarter of your own party.
And so that's really interesting, because when he gave that speech and he committed to an orderly transition of power, I believe him. I think he's someone who massively respects rules and processes, but therein lies part of the problem, which is he's been so obsessed with process and just everything being done the right way that he's not necessarily been very good at the politics of all of this. And I also think his personality, sort of, even during the election, it was also carefully controlled. You know, the repeated line of his dad was a toolmaker, his dad was a toolmaker, his dad was a toolmaker. And you're like, that's fantastic. I'm glad that your dad had an honest profession, but I'm also bored of hearing it. And that's no disrespect to your dad. But interestingly, when he gives this speech, you know, his voice wavers and he sort of nearly chokes up at the end. And it reminded me of Theresa May.
Yeah.
But Theresa May, when she got back into Downing Street after giving that speech, and her then Chief of Staff, Gavin Barwell, said to her, that was fantastic. You know, why couldn't you let people see that side, more people see that side of you more? And she said, you mark my words, all the press tomorrow will be about the fact I cried. As an example of how, because she was a woman, she cries, and everyone's like, oh, see, she's a woman, she cries. Whereas Starmer cries, and it's almost lauded as a kind of, isn't it fantastic that he's shown some emotion? I just find that an interesting... That remains still a problem, I think, in our society. I think Theresa May wasn't entirely wrong. Why would we focus it on her and then not respond in the same way with Keir Starmer? It was beautiful that he welled up, and we should have been celebrating Theresa May showing the same emotion.
But I think the interesting thing actually with that is both of those prime ministers were probably seen, unfairly or not, as a bit robotic.
Yes.
And not necessarily having a lot of charisma. And so that's why it kind of made that response. Made that kind of headline. It's people are like, oh, we're finally seeing the real you.
And it was very beautiful. It was very moving, you know, and it reminded us of the human cost. It's
completely.
Not just Starmer who's impacted by this. It's his wife Vic. They've got 2 children. They're all going to have to move out. Okay, yes, you could say, well, they've got a nice home in Islington, and that is true. But at the same time, this is still significant upheaval for them. And so from a human angle, you can't help but feel a bit sorry for them, at least I do.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think it is a sign, isn't it, of shared humanity that you can recognise, even if you disagree with someone quite strongly. And there will be plenty of people who watch this podcast who agree or vociferously disagree with Keir Starmer, and that just that kind of human level of sympathy is a really good thing. What would be your summary of Keir Starmer's time in office? If you had to come up with one word, I've got one, but I want to hear your one, and then we can kind of expand a little bit as to why we think it.
Mediocre.
As good as that.
What was your word?
Disappointing.
Disappointing. Okay, so we basically both landed in a similar kind of space.
Yeah.
So why disappointing?
Well, I mean, it's only fair, isn't it, to recognise our own political biases in these. But you have a new prime minister after 14 years of Conservative rule. The big slogan is change begins. And obviously a lot of people were putting their hopes in Labour kind of escaping from the Tory psychodrama and all these changes of Prime Minister, and thinking, oh, we've got stable government, the country's going to be all right now. And it very quickly, I think it went pear-shaped for them. It was really within actually probably the first 100 days, which feels like a remarkable thing to say. But whenever you have a kind of a change of regime, you hope that you'll get the best bits of that new party who are taking power. And I'm not sure we had that at all.
No.
And it was really interesting. I don't know whether you thought the same, but when Keir Starmer did his resignation speech, he listed this series of accomplishments. I'll read out bits of it, because if you were to listen to this, I think you'd think, what went, like nothing's going wrong here.
No, I know.
So Keir Starmer's summary of his time in office, his own summary, was an economy that is stronger, growing faster than our peers, wages rising faster than inflation in every single month since we came to power, investment secured, infrastructure being built, an end to austerity, the fastest fall in waiting lists for 17 years, the biggest improvement in rights for workers and renters in a generation, the biggest uplift in defence spending since the Cold War, small boat crossings falling, asylum hotels closing, protecting young people from social media, and 500,000 children being lifted out of poverty because of the choices that I made.
Yes.
I was like, ooh, interesting that you've used the word I there rather than the government. But yeah, you listen to that and you would think, surely everyone's going to have loved you. But that's absolutely not what happened, is it?
No, that's right. And I mean, what do you make of this whole desperation for a legacy? You know, I do think the media kind of fuel this. I think they talk about it as if it's a given that you know, an outgoing prime minister will do everything they can to try to secure their legacy. And I'm not denying that Keir Starmer may very well be doing that, but I also think it's a kind of manufactured thing that the media usefully like to kind of codify everything he now does as a lame duck prime minister under the, well, you see, he's trying to secure his legacy. But as a concept, that troubles me, because that turns the focus away from public service and onto him as an individual, my legacy. I mean, it's sort of, it's a very selfish way of looking at things. And I can't read Keir Starmer's heart. The Lord alone knows the heart.
Yeah.
But as an idea that a political leader would seek to gain their legacy, I guess I've been wrestling with a little bit with, as a Christian, how should I respond to that? Because again and again, it seems to me the whole tenor of the Bible, and the New Testament especially, is I will live, I will serve Christ, I will follow him faithfully, God help me, I will die, and I'll be forgotten. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, John the Baptist, he suddenly appears on the scene. He's got this radical ministry of repentance. He's basically telling Jewish people that they're not really part of the family of God and need to be baptized, which was an incredibly offensive thing to say to them. And then he's put in prison, and then he's beheaded. And yet there's that wonderful line, I must decrease so that he must increase. So I suppose I've been a bit sad that the tenure of another prime minister is being sort of left with this kind of aftertaste of what he's really interested in is making sure he can write his name in the history books. And that's just, I don't think that's a Christian way of thinking. And just a challenge to, I guess to us. It's not about our legacy. It's about what we do to serve others.
Yeah.
And we may well be forgotten, and that's okay. Now, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's okay for prime ministers to kind of want to secure some kind of legacy of doing good. You know, but I just struggle with it. It's this kind of big concept that seems to be driving what he's doing in these final weeks.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought, which I hadn't thought about before. I guess with almost every prime minister in my lifetime, I feel like they are remembered for their for one big thing which went wrong.
Yes.
So Blair, remembered for Iraq.
Yes.
Brown, financial crash.
Yes.
Cameron, Brexit. May, couldn't get Brexit done. Boris, Partygate. Truss,
blew the economy up.
And then Sunak, probably the image of him standing out in the rain.
Yes,
it's probably what people will remember him.
Yes,
for,
and in a very early episode of the Engage podcast, just after we launched it, remember I came with an umbrella.
I do remember your umbrella.
Oh, those were the innocent days when we were just having fun, but now we have to be serious because everything's going wrong.
So in almost all of them, it ends quite badly.
And yet, you know, again, thinking about the big heroes of the faith, you know, Hebrews 11's got all these fantastic, you know, mentions of the great and the good of the Old Testament especially, and yet each one you can look at and go flawed, majorly flawed. Someone who murdered someone because he wanted to sleep with their wife, flawed. It's quite astonishing that just challenges us, I suppose. We're back to that question of expectations of our leaders. That I think, why do we remember them for their faults? I think as a country, we delight in seeing people mess up and then us tearing them down. That is a cultural flaw that we have, because again, scripture speaks about you've got to build one another up, you've got to lift one another up, not just be pulling everyone down all the time. So there's something it's easy in these moments to get obsessed with what the Prime Minister's done wrong. But, maybe Britain's just ungovernable. Maybe it's our fault. Maybe we, the voting public, need to shoulder some responsibility. And you know what? Get involved in politics if you think everything's gone wrong. Don't just whinge about it from the sidelines, but get involved.
Yeah, it is not the critic who counts, as Theodore Roosevelt said.
Oh, very good. Very good. Yeah.
But no, I think there is something in that. I think if you have been a country who has changed prime minister, well, would have had 6 prime ministers in 7 years.
Yes,
you do have to start reflecting inwards rather than just pointing the finger and saying, what is the reason why we can't get through more than a couple of years now?
Yeah,
with the same prime minister, and it's not like actually this kind of period is completely unprecedented, because there have been times in British history where prime ministers have changed quite quickly.
Yeah,
but I think if you were to look back at the comparative stability of Major had 7 years, Thatcher was 11 years, I think. I mean, if you were to go further back, you had someone like Churchill loses an election,
yes,
and then stays party leader and comes back and leads Conservatives again. When would we ever have that in today's politics? As soon as you lose an election, you are toast, unless you're Jeremy Corbyn. But generally, if stuff goes wrong for you, that's it. You get one election cycle.
Do you think Starmer will stay as a backbench MP?
I think he will go through to the next election, because I do think that I think he will struggle to be in the. I think he will struggle to be led by Andy Burnham. He won't like that very much, understandably. But yeah, I do think he is motivated by a sense of looking to do the right thing.
Yeah.
My prediction would be, like Theresa May did, he will see out his term.
Unlike David Cameron. You said he was going to stay.
I'm not surprised that David Cameron did not stay.
Neither am I. Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, if that is the outgoing Prime Minister,
yes,
someone else is talking as if they are already the Prime Minister.
This is one of the strangest, we've kind of got 2 Prime Ministers at the moment.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
It's really, I can't remember the last time this happened. So Andy Burnham gave his first major speech.
Yeah.
He's already said he will stand in the contest, although the way it's going to work is nominations for the next leader open on July the 9th. There's a period of days during which nominations can be received. You must have a number of criteria met, including 20% of the Parliamentary Labour Party, so 81 MPs, that's 20% of 403. But you also need to have a number of other nominations as well, including from 3 representative bodies, 2 of which must be trade unions as part of the kind of labour movement. And there's some other criteria too. If there's a contest, then we can expect the new Prime Minister to be in place by September.
Yeah.
If there's not a contest, as many people think there won't be, unless Al Carnes decides to go for it, then we're going to have a coronation kind of mid-July.
Yeah.
And I think it will be that, and it will be a coronation of Andy Burnham. Wes Streeting's already said he supports him. He's not going to stand, despite all the bravado of recent weeks.
Because he knows he won't win.
Well, that's right. And it's funny, isn't it? They tell the media, I've got the numbers. Yeah, I've got the numbers. And you're like, if you had the numbers and you said you want a battle of ideas, then why are you not following through with your word? I mean, Jesus says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. That must be true in politics as much as anywhere else. You don't get a free pass because, it's politics. I don't think that's how that works. But anyway, could be wrong. So, Andy Burnham, what do you make of him?
Oh, well, did you watch the speech yesterday?
I watched the speech yesterday.
I also watched the speech yesterday, although I must confess, after the first 5 minutes, when I saw how long it was, I did watch it sped up slightly.
Yes, I always watch these things 1.5 speed. Yeah, sometimes even 2.
I wasn't going quite that fast. Well, I think you can see some of the immediate superficial differences with Keir Starmer, can't you? So, in particular, Keir Starmer, even when Keir Starmer was trying to be passionate, he still sounded robotic, unfortunately. And there's no nice way to see it, to say it. That man just is not a public speaker.
Yes.
It's dire.
Yes.
Whereas Andy Burnham, much more relaxed up the front, sort of putting expression into sentences, like things which are just basic, I would have said.
No shirt and tie?
Yeah, indeed.
What did you make of his trendy casual?
Not in number 10 yet.
Okay, yeah. Interesting.
And you can tell he's much happier to sort of respond off the cuff as well. That was one of the things I noticed. He sounds more natural, particularly when he makes a little kind of side comment in his speech. I guess the big headline, which has grabbed the media, is this idea of having a number 10 in the North.
Yes.
What did you think?
Well, look, I think someone's going to have to pay for it. I would personally rather my taxes were not being spent on.
We'd rather it's not us.
Vanity projects. But then again, I am a Londoner, so maybe I'm suffering from the curse that afflicts all of us who live in this great city.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the idea of devolution. I actually think devolution as a principle is a good thing to make sure that power is closer to the people. I actually think that's one of the reasons why this country voted for Brexit, was because people wanted to feel like power was closer. And I think that's why the Scottish Parliament, the Welsh Parliament, the Northern Ireland Assembly, generally speaking, the populations there have accepted them because they feel, therefore, like control over the NHS in their jurisdictions is closer to home. And I think that's a good thing. I suppose calling it number 10 of the North is a catchy media line. So it's won the day from that point of view. But what does it mean? And we had some vague language around, they'd be involved in sort of, private sector, public sector partnerships to get investment going and to boost infrastructure and to make sure that we have a 10-year project to bring down the bills. And look, that's great. It'd be great if you could bring down gas and electricity bills. But you're not answering how are you going to do that, because that raises questions around, say, fracking in the North Sea, for example. I mean, listen to President Trump. We're sitting on massive amounts of oil in the North Sea, but we're not even drilling. He says, drill, baby, drill. And so I didn't hear that from Burnham. I thought it would have been brilliant if Burnham had said in his accent, drill, baby, drill. So I guess I just think, yes, better than Starmer, better communicator, devolution as a principle I agree with, but we're very, very short on detail. And listening to some podcasts in the aftermath, it was clear to me that a lot of commentators think getting into actual number 10 Downing Street in London, Andy, will be a massive shock to the system because they will realise how little money there is available. And yet we're in a situation as a country where we have got used to the spending taps almost always being turned on. And there's an insatiable desire for more and more investment. We need more of this, more public services, more of the NHS, more. But nobody seems willing to go, how are we going to pay for it? Yeah. We are living beyond our means as a country. And I would have loved it if Burnham had stood up and said, we can't afford the fiscal rules anymore. We can't afford the triple lock on pensions. We can't afford to have our cake and eat it. This is going to be a government of hard choices. But which politician's ever going to say that?
Well, that is a really interesting thing, I think. Because I would have said one of the problems with Keir Starmer once Labour entered power back in summer 2024 was the country was looking for a positive change.
Yes. And
what did they do? They focused on the negatives.
Yes.
And it was all, we've got this £21 billion black hole. Really? And it was all kind of, we're going to have to make tough choices. Yeah. It's going to be so hard. Yeah. And it kind of really punctured that mood of hope which you had with that new administration.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying this, but Andy Burnham's approach is right or wrong. But I can see why he didn't do it, because it didn't work for them.
But this is the problem with us as a country. So I don't actually think Britain is ungovernable, but I do think there is a problem with the population, of which I am a part. So I include myself here. I do think we have a problem, which is that we don't like bad news.
Well, that's certainly true.
And so therefore we can't hack it when someone delivers us bad news. Yeah. Like, by the way, actually, there's not really any economic growth going on. Costs are going up all the time. We don't have proper energy security. We have an outdated defense. If Russia invaded us, we would lose. Look, we are going to have to do some difficult things. And I just wonder if, principally, you're right. Of course you are. I mean, the reaction was really clear. But how much of that was in the way that Starmer and Reeves did it? And how much of it was timing?
Yeah.
Is the country a bit more ready now to hear a bit more truth and sort of, be warmed up to this idea of, but then again, Burnham will be thinking, how am I going to secure the next election? Well, I can't be going around telling everyone that, everything's rubbish, and by the way, it's going to get more rubbish.
And I think that's the thing. I think part of the reason why it's so jarred 2 years ago when Starmer and Rachel Reeves did it was because they had sold a relatively positive vision in an election campaign. And then as soon as they were in number 10 and number 11, that was out the window. Yeah. We can't do any of it. Whereas for Andy Burnham, he is at least being relatively consistent, this idea of having hope. So I think my reading of it would be the country actually isn't necessarily better equipped to deal with bad news because it's just had 2 years of constantly feeling like things are getting worse, following on from years under the Conservatives where it also didn't feel great. And so I think Burnham has probably captured the mood which certainly the Labour Party would have wanted right now, which is things were not great, but we're going to make them better. I think that's probably politically what he had to do at this point.
What do you think about, I've heard some people say that there's something a bit icky about all of this. Here's a man who was mayor of Manchester, finds a seat, becomes an MP, and then stabs his leader in the back. That this is a sign of a disreputable character.
Ooh,
power hungry.
Strong word.
The Bible has a lot to say about, think about Ecclesiastes, for example. None of this is really going to solve things. We might get a bit of a boost, we might get a bit of a change, but the facts of life are the facts of life. Work will always be a bit disappointing. This world is cursed, although, praise God, his kingdom is broken in. But it's not through Andy Burnham that the kingdom's going to come on earth as it is in heaven.
Well,
although
quite.
Burnham may pass some policies that can help, although chance to be a fine thing. But do you know what I mean?
I do. And actually, that was something which I was going to come on to as well. In terms of whether Andy Burnham's done anything wrong, I think Starmer was going to go anyway at some point. So and
being ambitious is not wrong in itself, is it?
No, I do think it doesn't necessarily sit wonderfully with me that someone seeks to become an MP just so they can be immediately parachuted in as PM. And also, what does it say about your 400 MPs if you have to take someone in from the outside? I think the big thing which I have been reflecting on in the last couple of weeks is the way in which Burnham is being really portrayed as a sort of messiah-like figure for Labour. He is the one who can lead us out of the doldrums to the promised land.
Yes, that's right.
And it's all going to be wonderful, and the problems will be magicked away. And that is obviously not a biblical way of looking at things at all. And so in the Psalms, you get that verse, I think, in sort of Psalm 146, do not put your trust in princes, in human beings who cannot save. You have a similar idea in sort of Psalm 20, where some trust in chariots, some in horses. We trust in the name of the Lord our God. Human figures can never fully live up to the expectations which we would have of them. One, because they are human and flawed, and so they will get things wrong. And secondly, two, because they are just human, they cannot always deal with the problems anyway. And how often do you see someone come in with a manifesto to do certain things, and then it gets derailed because of things outside of their control? You saw that in 2019 when Boris came in, and then you had COVID.
Yes.
And then you've had war in Ukraine, and you've had war in the Middle East. Britain is no longer such a major world power that it is immune from consequences which the rest of the world is facing.
And I think Andy Burnham talks about the Makersfield test, right?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
That's what he's going to bring into number 10.
Yeah.
Which one, Andy? The one in London or the one in Manchester? But I would say actually a bigger test is, what are you going to do for the most vulnerable in our communities? This is something we talk about a lot at CARE. In the Bible, God's heart is for the vulnerable. Everyone's made in God's image, but there are always those in every society that are kind of furthest from justice, that need more support. And that's partly where I'm getting frustrated at the moment with politics in general, which is amidst all of the high politics of leadership succession, what we're losing sight of is there are some very significant legislative things being done.
Yeah.
So the social media ban, for example, the massive changes to how are we going to protect young people online. There's a really good and important conversation to be had there, but there's huge work that needs to be done to improve access to fostering services and adoption services. There's huge work that needs to be done to support our older people, particularly around making sure they don't feel disenfranchised, dealing with the crisis of loneliness. There's huge things to do as well with kind of people trapped in prostitution. There's gambling reform needed. And I was just having a conversation the other day about, we could say, well, changing the law around prostitution, it's not the most important thing right now. But actually, that's the wrong way to look at it, which is to say, you can't just grade all of the different people who are vulnerable and say, well, we'll get to them later. We'll get to that group later. Like here we have a presenting issue that could be addressed through law change. And the Labour Party at the moment, even though they support changing the law, it's not a priority. Why? Well, because you've just spent the last 3, 4, 5 months absolutely tied up in knots about leadership and succession.
Yeah.
That's the human cost to what we've just witnessed over the last few months.
No, you're absolutely right. When you have more focus on political games, the people who will get forgotten and are most impacted are those who were furthest away from justice in the first place.
Yes.
And in particular the vulnerable. So I think that's absolutely true. I think one of the other difficulties which we have in this particular circumstance is no one really knows what anti-Burnham thinks or wants to do.
No.
So there's that joke, a Blairite, a Brownite and a Corbynista walk into a bar and the barman says, "What would you like, Andy?" Because he can be all three of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty, I think, about what he will do. There's certainly a lot of uncertainty about what his economic plans are going to be, and there are questions over who should be the Chancellor. So should it be Ed Miliband, who this is his big chance? Is it going to be Wes Streeting? Possibly not. Is it going to be Shabana Mahmood? Is it going to be Yvette Cooper?
Yeah.
So we're just currently in a bit of a limbo place where you've got one Prime Minister who is gone. You've got another one who is a Prime Minister in waiting, but who's not started yet. And so you just have this uncertainty, which is not good for the country at all, I think.
No, and on every level, domestic, international, and so on. We should just comment on 2 pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
The first is been announced by the government. It's a draft bill, Conversion Practices 2026, Conversion Practices Ban 2026. And just that word draft is important. It just means that the bill has not been introduced in Parliament.
Yeah.
It's been published, but it first will be scrutinised by a joint committee, probably of both houses. And they will have a consultation period, and they will then produce a report with recommendations to the government, and the government will go away, have a look, have a think, and then come back with a revised bill that will then be introduced in the House of Commons. And I mean, this goes all the way back to 2018. It was Theresa May who first promised a conversion, as it was then called, therapy ban.
Yeah.
And it's based on the notion that in society there are practices being done to same-sex attracted people, to people who struggle with their gender identity, that are abusive, coercive, and this could take a variety of forms. It could be through conversation, it could be actually through physical actions, and that therefore we need a new law to explicitly ban these things. And here's just a little question I always like to ask whenever a new law is proposed, which is that what problem is this new law trying to solve?
Yeah.
Do other laws exist that would solve it? And what's the evidence base for the problem? And this does not pass that test. So the evidence base is faulty and flawed. There was a big survey of LGBT people done back in, I think, 2017, 2018. And that survey did ask, have you ever experienced conversion therapy? But it didn't define it.
Yeah, that's always one of the problems,
it's self-selective then, isn't it? And so there were some who responded yes, but the truth is that we have no way of actually knowing, was that something that was already illegal and that we don't need new legislation, or was that just something that they didn't like? So anyway, this draft bill has been published, and it's just really worth people who are engaging with the Engage podcast just being aware of this, because on a number of levels, it seems to me, it undermines fundamental freedoms. The freedom of parents to talk to their children about issues of sexuality, about issues of gender identity. And also it could potentially undermine the rights of churches, Orthodox churches, going around doing the normal business of preaching, proclaiming the whole counsel of God. The final thing I would say on that is I do think that legislation is an opportunity for the church, parts of the church, to reflect on sometimes how we speak and how we communicate with people who come into our communities who struggle with same-sex attraction, who struggle with the reality of gender dysphoria. I do think that to kind of simply go, we've never got this wrong, that would be a mistake. And so I hope that there's a degree of humility in advocating for our fundamental freedoms while recognizing that in the past and even today, we may have a blind spot on some of these issues.
Yeah, I always think with things to do with conversion therapy or conversion practices, it has often felt to me like politicians are chasing a headline more than they are trying to get the right balance in legislation. Because as you've already alluded to, there have at points been some really horrendous practices. At points, the church has colluded in that, but those practices are, and we're very thankful for this, those practices are already illegal.
Yeah.
And that is something which we wholeheartedly support. Once you're starting to shift things on to just talking with someone, potentially trying to be a listening ear and giving them some advice. So say you have a person in your youth group and you're a youth leader and they disclose to you that they are unsure of as to what their gender is. And you're trying to be a really supportive ear, but you're also trying to say, just slow down here and think about this a little bit. And actually, we think in the Bible, this doesn't actually kind of suggest that the best route is to go down a particular path. Then you're starting to kind of get into a really dangerous area, I think, and where you are starting to infringe upon what a Christian's you're starting to infringe effectively upon Orthodox Christian belief and teaching. The other question with it, I think, and this example will sit somewhere in the middle of the two scenarios I've just laid out. So, say you had someone at your church who experiences same-sex attraction, and they come to you and say, look, I don't want to feel these feelings anymore. Can you pray for me? I don't know quite what I would say in that circumstance, because on the one hand, the goal for any Christian is holiness. It is not gay people, you have to become straight. Like the Bible does not talk like that at all. It talks about us all trying to be like Jesus. And so I probably would want to pray something along those lines of, please help this person to come to know you, Jesus, more, and to reflect your character and to live their lives in a way which is pure and holy. I would probably say something like that, as opposed I probably wouldn't pray a change this person's sexuality, because I don't see the Bible pointing in that direction. But just because I think that something may not always be the most helpful thing for someone to say, that doesn't necessarily mean that it should be illegal. No. And there's a difference, isn't there, between, we might say, this might not be helpful, but that doesn't mean you should criminalise it. There's all kinds of things which we think that may not be a great idea for someone to do, but that doesn't mean you criminalise it.
No, that's right.
And so the law is quite a blunt instrument. Yeah. And when, as in this case, the potential is for 5 years imprisonment.
Yes.
And
unlimited
large fines.
Yeah.
Then it's really concerning ground, I think.
I totally agree. And concerning as well is the other piece of legislation, which is the return of the assisted suicide bill, which we really hoped would be done and gone. But Lauren Edwards, MP, came number 2 in the private members' bill ballot, and she has brought this bill forward.
Mm.
And we're expecting a big second reading debate in September in the House of Commons. And that's the moment where, back in 2015, assisted suicide bill was rejected.
Mm.
The mood music that I'm picking up is that there isn't the same appetite in the Commons that there was back in 2024, I think it was, end of 24, when the Commons passed it.
Second reading, 24.
So, God willing, this will be, like in Scotland, an actual vote in rejection, but we just find ourselves yet again having to make the arguments. It sounds good, it sounds reasonable, but fundamentally, it's the Lord who gives life, it's the Lord who takes life. It is not our right to choose when to die. We're just not granted that blunt power, as it were. So I don't know about you, but when the news broke that she was bringing it forward, that there was a kind of, you almost had to make a conscious effort to go, right, here we go again.
Yeah.
And summon up the energy to go, right, come on.
Yeah, I mean, you've been through many more of these than I have. I think to feel like you're constantly fighting the same battle.
Yes.
And each time you defeat it, you think, we're there.
I know.
But it is the nature, I think, of this issue that the other side will keep on bringing it back. And as they themselves rather ominous, I think it might have been Kit Malthouse who said this. If it's not, but I apologise. But he said rather ominously, we only have to win once. And I think that is the really concerning thing. And that's what makes it so exhausting.
I totally agree. Yeah. A fantastic range of resources on this issue, in particular on CARE's website, care.org.uk, whole topic page on assisted suicide. And if you go to the freedom of speech, you'll find some content engaging with the conversion practices bill as well.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of this podcast. By the next time we record, we may be a little bit closer to the Andy Burnham coronation.
He may have been crowned.
He may have been crowned. He may be in Manchester, in the number 10 of the North. In fact, he almost inevitably will be. So yeah, it'd be fantastic to be back with you, Peter.
Yeah.
Please don't forget, we will be back very, very soon, but also November 10th, St. James the Lesser Church in Pimlico, with special guest Tim Farron on the subject of Christian nationalism. We are doing a live recording of this very, very podcast. So the link to book your place will be in the description. Please, please come along and join us. It'd be fantastic to have you there. Pleasure as always, Peter. See you soon.
Good to see you.